Right, let's get into UFC 300 now. We're going to do things slightly differently because if we go through each fight, we haven't got you booked for 4 hours here. So we're going to have a little bit of fun with it, do things a little bit differently. What we're going to do is I'm going to pick some categories, and you have to pick a fight or a fighter that you think best fits the bill from Saturday. For example, one of the categories could be, what do you think is the fight most likely to end with a stoppage? That's not one of the categories, but it could be.
Okay.
You then
Right.
pick a fight that you think will. The big caveat and the big trick here, John, is that once you pick a fight or a fighter once, you can't pick them again. So, for example, if you were to say you think Pereira versus Hill, that's the most likely to end in a stoppage. If later on in the conversation we say, what do you think is going to be the fight of the night? You can't then go back to Pereira and
All
Hill.
right. Cool. Roadblocks all over the place. All right. Let's see how we do.
Happy?
Happy.
You've been read your instructions in the dressing room? Okay, we'll start with, well, I'm going to say we'll start with an easy one, but this could be the one where you instantly tick off a big player. So we're going to go with our first category is fight of the night. There's some crackers here, John. What do you think is going to be the fight that everybody's talking about on Sunday?
Zhang Weili versus Yan Xiaonan, I think. Zhang Weili is just like a performance of the night machine. And I think this is going to be quite competitive. So I think we're going to get to see some action. Yan Xiaonan brings like a lot of volume as well, a lot of offense. So yeah, let's see how that goes. I think that's going to be a really, really competitive fight that could then qualify it for a fight of the night.
It's a good pick, that. I like that pick because the last time we really saw Zhang Weili in with someone who might be as strike heavy as her opponent on Saturday night, we saw one of the greatest UFC fights of all time, regardless of male or female, right? So if this one, I think we'll know quite early, right? I think if this one's going to go, we're going to see it.
Yeah, Zhang Weili's got that kind of power where she could get Yan Xiaonan out there early. I'm not sure it comes back the other way necessarily, but as the fight extends, yeah, I mean that fight with the first fight with Joanna Jędrzejczyk was just phenomenal. So very much capable of delivering 25 minutes of sheer hell, both of these ladies. So let's see. Historic as well. I mean, what a massive fixture for Chinese fans. Brilliant.
Next category is the one for the purists.
Well, I think Bobby Green versus Jim Miller. I think you maybe have to have served your time as a UFC fan to really appreciate both of those guys. They have given so much to the sport. They really have. Jim Miller featured at UFC 100, UFC 200, and will be fighting UFC 300. That in alone is absolutely astonishing. He's also had like a lot of health issues over the years, so I don't really know how he's been able to put himself together every single time and go out there and entertain the UFC fans. They both have exciting styles. Bobby Green, a really unique style. He can rock a mic as well. So I'm looking forward to listening to him in the build up to this one. He's been getting his main events recently as well. So I feel like he's been getting that promotional rub. And it seems only right that Jim Miller, with all of these appearances, is finally getting recognized by fans new and old. So I feel like the backstory to this one is probably appreciated by some of us more nerdy UFC fans, and I think that these guys will put together one heck of a fight, and skills everywhere, absolutely everywhere. I think they cancel each other out in certain aspects, but can Bobby Green deal with the submission threat of Jim Miller? We shall find out.
All right, we got Bobby Green and Jim Miller X'd off. We've got the women's strawweight fight X'd off. Still plenty of great options. Let's go for the next category. The fight that you think is going under the radar the most.
Haven't really felt the temperature recently because I was working the event before. But I think the Charles Oliveira Arman Tsarukyan fight is a very, very important one. And it's whether you kind of looking at it for the same reasons that I'm thinking of, because this is Charles Oliveira throwing down the rope to allow Arman Tsarukyan the opportunity to really climb up. I think I'm right in saying Oliveira is the number one ranked guy at the moment in the
Yeah,
lightweight
still
division.
is.
So, you know, you get Arman Sarukian, who is just deadly. I was on the call when he made his debut, and he made his debut against Islam Makhachev. And many people who know way more about this, the technical nuances of this sport than I do, believe that that was the toughest that Islam Makhachev has had it in the octagon. I mean, maybe they need to have another look at that Volkanovski fight, but they're the two that you would really put under the microscope for that. So there's a storyline building here that if Arman Sarukian can get past Oliveira, then, you know, he could be the guy to rematch Islam Makhachev and really give him a good go over five rounds. But for Charles Oliveira, how can you not love this guy? Like, what he's achieved in the sport is absolutely sensational. I was watching some of his highlights yesterday, and he's not just a submission guy.
No.
Like, he's such a deadly Muay Thai fighter as well. So he's got a double threat. He doesn't seem to be really falling off. In actual fact, he's getting better. It's weird. A lot of these guys in the lightweight, like Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, Charles Oliveira, they seem to be getting better, not worse, when Father Time should be taking a hold. But it doesn't really seem to be so much. Anyway, we'll see how this one plays out. But I think that is a very important fight for 155 pounds, which has historically been one of, if not the deepest division with some of the biggest stars in the sport, past and present. So amongst everything else, it's not for a title, but it's very, very important. And a big win really will do some great favors to the positioning of who gets to fight Islam Makhachev this year.
We're going to dive into our next category, performance of the night. Who do you think is the individual fighter who could potentially steal the show on Saturday night?
Performance of the night. Oh, this is so difficult.
Yeah,
oh my goodness. I'm trying to save. I'm keep looking at the BMF fights and I'm predicting the questions that are going to be coming up. But you know, if Max gets it done over Gaethje, like that's got to be a performance of the night. But then Gaethje's the human highlight, and every time that he steps out, he earns a performance of the night. I'm going to go with that fight. I'm going to go Gaethje Holloway. I just think there's so much potential there. There's quite a few unanswered questions around the Holloway side. He's only been up at 155 before. And it wasn't, you know, his finest hour. Take nothing away from him. Yeah, again, I mentioned his name earlier. Dustin Poirier, an absolute, just a legend and a future Hall of Famer. So, yeah, I think that fight. I am very interested in that fight, and I think that Max is only getting better. I was in Singapore when he beat the Korean Zombie, and that was one of the most memorable moments I've had in an arena, probably because of the Korean Zombie side of things. But even so, Max just deciding to engage in a firefight when he didn't have to, and like he has done so many more times before, just been able to, he's just got the eyes to see shots that others don't, and see the shots that are coming and get out of the way of them, and then, you know, good night.
Are you backing Max Holloway to have the performance of the night? Or are you
backing... Oh, are you looking for an individual, or are you looking for the fight?
We're getting down to the nitty-gritty here.
I don't know. Can I say that though? Because then when I next see Max Holloway or Justin Gaethje, you know, they might be kicking my legs from underneath me. Can we not settle on that fight's going to be the bearer of the performance of the night? Just so that I can,
for the sake, around these fighters, for the sake of your legs, yes, we can do that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Upset of the night.
Well, I mean, listen, if Cody Brundage gets it done, that would be a massive upset. A huge, huge upset. I mean, he's got a couple of wins now, and you're running a couple of wins. But going up against Bo Nickel is a big ask, and Bo Nickel has been afforded this spot, you know, opening up the main card. He's a huge deal. I actually met the guy because my teammate Sam Patterson was on the same Dana White Contender Series show where he actually got the contract. And there's something about him, you know, he walked into that Contender Series looking everything like the full package. He had all the film crews around him. You knew that he was something special, and people were investing in him. But Cody Brundage is no joke, and if he gets to beat Bo Nickel, I mean, that would silence the arena, I think. So yeah, let's roll the dice on that one.
It would be such an upset that the website I'm looking at hasn't even offered odds for that fight.
There you go. Exactly. Exactly.
That's
So
what it would be.
if he can get it done, that would be a monumental upset.
Okay. Next category, 2 left. There's some cracking fights that you haven't touched, John Gooden. I can see the strategy at work here.
You can see the stress at work. Yeah.
Okay, this one's a little bit different. So this one might be a bit tricky, but you're handling it fine so far. What could be the surprise element of the night? Now, this is a little bit different from upset of the night. Maybe this could be you'll be surprised how easily this fighter is going to win, or you might be surprised how this fighter is going to win, or you might be surprised what this fighter does after the fight. Or this is where you could unveil some of those surprises the UFC have got for us, John.
Yeah, not going to do that. In case they hand me my papers. So, 2 fights that I'm really looking at here are the Rakic Prohashka fights and the Sterling Cater fights. You know, Aljo coming up. I don't know why he doesn't get the flowers that I feel like he deserves, truth be told. I know that there's obviously that Peter Yan situation will just hang around him like a bad smell. But I mean, I really like the kid. I'm a big fan of Calvin Kattar as well. 2 guys who genuinely like very personable. But I think if Aljamain Sterling can turn up and just show all of the Aljo that's made him a champion at bantamweight and just translate that at 145 pounds, I think that will have a lot of people talking. And again, we're talking about the featherweight division. I mean, we've now got, there will be what, 4 champions? Like, so what will we have? So we're going to have Aljamain Sterling, we'll have Volkanovski, Topuria, and Holloway all kicking about at 145 pounds if Holloway indeed does decide to stay competitive there.
Yep.
I mean, that is unreal, right? So if Aljo can put it together, and if he can make Calvin Kattar look ordinary, which is going to be a very, 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 very tough thing to do. But if he can do like what he did to Corey Sandhagen and just fly in there, like take his back, choke him out, and be done, it'd be like, good Lord, what is happening at featherweight right now?
Some really good stuff. And you get to enjoy it. You get to flow through it all, because the final category is honorable mentions. The fights that we haven't spoken about much here, they're the ones that are still getting you really excited. So feel free to dip in and out, go through the lot of them, whichever ones when you look at this card, they're all great fights, but what are the ones that are really getting you personally excited?
Yeah. All right. Well, as a European and a guy that's been part of European mixed martial arts for, over a decade now, I'm really excited about that Yuri Prohashka versus Alexander Rakic fight. I don't know the stats, but I know a couple of years ago, 205 would bear the most knockouts of any division. Like, they have some explosive cats in that division for sure. And we've got 2 guys that live a couple of hours from one another who are fighting at the very top of the division. Rakic created one of the most blood-curdling moments I've ever been close to when he knocked out Jimmy Manua with that head kick. The way that, I know Jimmy's a friend of mine, and it very hard. I knew his family were in the arena, but the way that happened was just so beautiful and incredible on one end, but just so heartbreaking and almost worrying on the other. So he can do that. He can produce those moments. He can also grind you out with some really good wrestling. There's been a few fights when I was like, really? You're just manhandling people, but actually you're the Rocket. You can kind of go from 0 to 100. So you got that style of things. Very powerful. I've done a Euro watch, which is something that I do every week, which is coming out in the next couple of days where I talk about this. On the other side, Yuri Prohashka, he has been involved in nothing but massive fights ever since he got to the UFC. There is no one like him, in or out of the octagon. Let's be real. Rakic, as we spoke about at the very top, says, I'm not sure about this samurai thing. The guy used to be like a football hooligan and used to get involved in some kind of bad stuff on the streets. All of a sudden he reads a book and now he's a samurai. My counter to that is whatever it takes.
Yeah.
We're all trying to self-improve in some way or the other, right? So if that's what made him turn his life around, then props to him. And of course, we've got to speak about Alex Pereira. How many guys have come into the UFC and made such an impression like that in such a short amount of time? Like it's just been wonderful to watch. I know that he had a background in kickboxing, but we've had others come over from Glory. I know Israel Adesanya, of course, but there, Dustin Jacoby. We had a guy on the weekend as well who done the same. But I'm not sure I can say with confidence they're all going to hit the notes that Poatan has. But again, just that stoic personality, his walk in, like the whole kind of native Brazilian style that he comes with. Then the story associated with Glover Teixeira. He was the former king in the division, and now he's got this guy mentoring him. It's just storyline after storyline, and he just keeps turning up on these nights, not really saying a great deal, and stealing the show.
Yeah,
he is special. Like 2 division champ, like 4, again, talk about a Hall of Famer. We got a bunch that are on this card that are going to be getting into the Hall of Fame if they are not already. And then you've got Jamal Hill, who you've got to have a lot of sympathy for this guy. He was right there. He was enjoying the best time of his career. And then he goes and ruptures his Achilles in like a fun game of basketball with his friends from the UFC, with everyone watching, right? And now he's been on the sidelines, much like Alexander Rakic, not being able to jump on opportunities, not being able to earn a living, not being able to express himself, and never having lost the title. He had to surrender it. So it must have been brutal for him in this period. But he is a man with such self-confidence.
Yeah.
Another one from Dana White's Contender Series, just to prove that show truly works in finding the highest level talent. And this guy can put your lights out. He's good everywhere.